girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your seatbelts.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey. We're here bringing back another Monday Night News special edition. Today's Boondoggle episode. We're here with returning guest Joe Gardi. It's been like a year, I think, since you've been on, Joe.
Yes, I think that's about right.
I know you've been on a couple times with our friend Flo White, and then I've had you on yourself. You were gracious enough to connect me with, I think, Dr. Monzo's been on here because of you connecting us, and G. Edward Griffin, man, which was like bucket list for me, and I'll be forever grateful for that.
Okay.
But anyway, you've been, hitting me up, and you wanted to talk about, I think it was 3 years ago.
Just about 3 years ago.
3 years ago, you came on. The NFL season was starting.
College football. And not too long after everybody was, forced to, if they wanted to play or work or do anything outside, forced to take a medical procedure. And you predicted, well, go ahead. Just say what you talked about back then. And well, at the time, this was about 3 years ago, I came on, and thank you again for having me. Again, the only reason why I'm here is because of the Lord. I've went through one hell of a journey over the last about a decade, and I give everything to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. He's the one why I'm here today, and all I want to do is give back and briefly tell my story, but tell you what what I said 3 years ago, I was dead on. I wish I did a little bit better in explaining a couple things a little bit better, but I came on 3 years ago and I said there was going to be a big uptick in professional athletes becoming injured, and why. And my prediction was that we know that the vast majority of athletes took the shot. They were pretty much forced to, 80-90% of them, especially in collegiate and in the NFL. And I wanted to talk about 3 years ago, a particular sport, football and basketball in particular, because it's fast, it's moving. And I wanted to hone in on a couple injuries that aren't usually not too common in that sport. And what was going to happen was there was going to be a rise in that particular that type of injury, and it was going to be more pronounced. So I said that you were going to see more Achilles tendon tears, and also the oblique injuries in stomachs. And I explained why. Now, what I would have liked to have done is gone in a little bit more in depth and explained that the vast portion people have got these injuries were, like I said, collegiate or professional football players. And what the shot does is when it gets in you, it causes oxygen deprivation, and it will also cause clotting in your body. And why I knew the Achilles tendon was going to rupture was because that area, the body needs a lot of blood flow and oxygen. Your body is amazing. It will do everything and anything to keep you alive. You might not be comfortable, but it will do everything and anything to keep you alive. And when you have these athletes that had taken the shot, I knew that what their body was going to do is the body, when they took the shot, was going to cause what's called micro tears in the body. And that's small clots. So the liver produces fibrinogen. Now, clotting could be a good thing, but too much of it, that's when things get out of hand. So when these athletes took the shot, what happens is the body now is under under tremendous amount of stress, because now it's a CRISPR technology shot, and I'll get more into what was in the shot and how it works. But it's CRISPR technology. It's gene editing. Now Kennedy's banned it. Which I knew this where we were going years ago. I'm kind of always ahead of the curve, because I ask for much wisdom from my father, and he's given me this wisdom, and that's how I knew what was going to happen. And so these athletes are trying to keep themselves alive internally, because what's happening is what's called your endothelial cells become inflamed and have tears in them. And that same endothelial cell is not only that comprises of the blood-brain barrier, but it's also in the gut. And so when your fibrinogen that's produced in the liver, it's a protein, tries to repair itself at the subatomic level, it just can't keep up. So I knew that the body was going to give, and I knew where it was going to give would be down in the Achilles tendon area, because you have less blood flow and oxygen. Remember, it's going to do everything to keep you so you don't bleed out, because what could happen, or people had that myocarditis, massive brain inflammation of the heart, and then the heart gives way. So that was going on. So I predicted the type of injury, but I wish I would have went a little bit more into explaining the oxygen deprivation that you're going to see. So the shot caused the body to come in tremendous stress due to the micro tears, and then the body kind of trying to repair itself, but it just could not keep up. So there was lack of blood flow, one, and then oxygen deprivation. So that's what caused these injuries that you're seeing over the last several years. And now the numbers are off the charts in basketball and football. And then I said, after I made this prediction, and this was 3 years ago, I asked Bill, I said, have me come back on and I will explain what I see that's going to happen next. And unfortunately, what's going to happen next is a lot worse than an Achilles tendon tear or an oblique that we're seeing in record number.
I think I think I remember too, when we had this conversation on here, like I'm not, I haven't been a regular football fanatic in a number of years. I was just texting and joking with a friend in LA who, remembered Brian Sipe, and I grew up on that. And then we had the drive, and, he was joking about the whole Elway thing with me, and I said, well, that's what caused me to start drinking. But anyway, yeah, it's just growing up. Football hasn't really been, I haven't been as into it, but everybody couldn't avoid the news. And it wasn't too long after you were on, Damar Hamlin incident from the Buffalo Bills, when he had the cardiac event in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
He said they just struck him perfectly right in the chest or whatever, the tackler. And it's like a 1 in a whatever off chance, but it just seemed like a lot more was involved with what happened. Like you said, with the whole myocarditis and heart thing, and how,
Correct.
media pushed a different narrative than,
Yes, of course. That's the unfortunate thing. But I think slowly but surely over the last year or two, we're starting to take a little bit more control of the narrative and getting our information out there finally. This is what I pray for anyway, because we're getting a lot of good doctors and scientists that are speaking out and telling the story of what's really happening. But what I see this upcoming season in collegiate sports, in college football, and also in the NFL, is the injury. Now, you're going to see a huge uptick in concussions. Now, concussions are common in college football and in the NFL, but what I'm about to say is going to be very alarming. It's going to be catastrophic. Usually when you have a concussion, you'll go into what's called concussion protocol. Well, these injuries that the players are going to sustain, the injuries are going to be long and severe because of what's going on. The endothelial cells, like I said, that are comprised of the blood-brain barrier in the gut are not going to be able to hold up now. It's been several years now since they started getting the shot, but the body is slowly breaking down, okay? And these areas of the cells are opening up and toxins are getting in. So what the football players normally used to have to deal with, especially like they would say years after they would retire, they would get, especially if they did an autopsy, they would have what's called CTE, and that stands for chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Well, there's also something called toxic encephalopathy, and that means toxins getting in, either pathogens or some type of what was in the shot, and it's getting into the brain. So now there's a double-edged sword. Now the players have to worry about, of course, the traumatic blow, but now because the blood-brain barrier is opened up, toxins are getting into the brain. So the concussions are going to be extremely severe, and they're going to last a lot longer. So usually, somebody gets a concussion, maybe a few days, a week, a couple weeks. No, these concussions are going to last a lot longer, and I'm very concerned is the long-term ramifications. Now, the players used to have the CTE, a decade, 15 years after the NFL. No, it's going to, the CTE is going to happen much sooner. But which is even worse is because the players took the shot. Now they have to work not only of the chronic, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, but the toxic encephalopathy. And this is the other alarming thing. Most of the time they said, well, we can't determine this till after the player's dead and we could do an autopsy. That's a bunch of hogwash. There is a test that I'm about to tell you that we could determine what's going on in the head of these NFL players or college players. Normally you'd say, oh, they'd get an MRI or no, that will not show what we need to see. You have to have what's called a triple-headed SPECT scan. Now, this is a test that I had done and was performed in Dallas, Texas at the Environmental Health Center in July of 2015. And I'm going to read in brief and part of what it is. A triple-headed brain SPECT scan recommended to evaluate for the presence of neurotoxicity. It's a single photon emission computed tomography is performed when a brain-specific radiolite which crosses the blood-brain barrier and remains frozen in the brain. 3 cameras are then used, and I mean 3. A single or double-headed SPECT scan will not work. Used to provide a 3-dimensional exposure. The phenomenon provides an accurate cerebral map of regional cerebral psychology, including patterns of neurotoxicity, tomography, which provides an atomic brain function information. The SPECT brain scan relies on the polarization of glutathione and measures the flow as related to function, which is the basis of diagnosis. The patterns of the triple-headed SPECT scan are standardized for diagnosis, and they can differentiate between diseases such as depression, schizophrenia, chronic fatigue, and toxicity. Only, and I mean only, the triple-headed SPECT scan, brain scan, could document the criteria for toxicity. These include areas of glutathione dye increased or decreased uptake, alteration of flow and function, temporal lobe asymmetry, and soft tissue dye uptake. There is no other known pattern that correlates with toxic exposure. So simply put, that is the only test that could determine this. So it could determine about the trauma because of the endothelial cells being damaged and the toxicity that's in the brain. So they were trying to pull the wool over us by saying, "Oh, you have to be basically dead to be able to get the diagnosis of CTE." That is not true. There are tests now. The triple-headed SPECT scan. Good luck trying to get it, because it's hardly, you would think that this is such a wonderful test and that every major hospital would have them. Folks, they don't. And so that leads me back to, well, why not? Why? Simply put, it's about money. This gives too much information of what's really going on, because then when you do get this diagnosis, how do you treat it? And the treatment, there are treatments, but they're extremely, there is, I don't like the word protocol, but there are several things that I'm going to eventually want to explain to Bill about solutions. I'm big about solutions. So how do we fix the problem, especially for so many people that are suffering from long COVID, the people have gotten the jab. And this is where my heart cries out to the people out there. I've been in a battle for a long time, and I fought the good fight. And I don't know when I'm going to take my last breath, but I want to give back, and I want to expose everything for what's going on to people out there. That jab was complete poison. And this isn't me saying this. I could get some of the best doctors and scientists in the world. For instance, Kennedy, he's the director of Health and Human Services. He just shut off the CRISPR technology that was part of the COVID jab. I call it. It was no vaccination. It was criminal, basically. But I'm not about to go down that lane. There's things that I wanted to talk about, which maybe we'll get Dr. Monzo on, and he could go more into depth what was actually in that jab. But I'm here to say that now we're at the crossroads of where these concussions are going to be more severe for sure, and they're more prevalent, because not only is it to the blow to the head again, but because of the jab. So you have the toxicity that was coming, that was from the jab, and then the blows have had from the treg. So, and the encephalopathy part is basically massive brain inflammation. The head's going to swell. The blood-brain barrier has been compromised.
Now, talking about the concussions, I'm trying to remember. I should have got on my little Google machine or something, but not that I can fully, trust all that information anymore. But that's a different topic. Was that what Lyle Alzado ended up having to deal, like years after concussions? Was that?
Well, I think it was like
the steroid.
Probably a combination. I couldn't tell you his particular.
But like you're saying, like that, the brain issues from the concussion didn't happen for till they were up in their old. It's time for retirement, to enjoy retirement, and they're like,
correct,
mush.
Correct.
But now it's going to be sped up because their body's inflamed and fighting, because what was it, the other thing that they had mentioned, how the self-replicating of the virus, that they injected into us, the mRNA or whatever.
It produces what's called a cytokine storm, and through the CRISPR technology, it's gene editing, and you're caught basically in a hamster loop,
constantly fighting it.
Correct.
So it's like, how do you fight? How do you normally? The body's a magnificent thing that can, given proper rest, recovery, exercise.
Correct.
These guys could come back from injuries.
Correct.
Like our own, football players that suffered some injuries.
Our bodies are very resilient. They're amazing.
Now they're fighting on a whole different front. So if they're already constantly in fight, adding these injuries is now making it a lot harder for the recovery time.
Correct. Exactly. The recovery time is it's going to be catastrophic. So usually when you get in a concussion protocol, you might be out that week. The symptoms, the nausea, the dizziness, the blurred vision, they're going to last a lot longer and could be a lot more. You could basically stroke. You could have what's called a brain bleed. These are things that I personally have experienced. I know all about this. feeling the way I've done for a long time and having to do, I mean, it's horrific, folks. And I'm crying out to anybody, anybody, not just athletes. I'll leave my number to contact me, but like I said, I'm not going to go down this road, but what was done was criminal. It was flat out criminal. And I'll just briefly, in 2005, they signed the PrEP Act, which is get out of jail free card for these pharmaceutical companies. But I'm going to tell you, folks, that's not going to fly, because what they did, even though the government gave them immunity, they committed fraud, and there's no immunity for complete fraud. When you know that you purposely lied and misled,
Safe and effective.
That's fraud, and that will all come out. But it will become, and it has to be proven, of course, in a court of law. And when these pharmaceutical companies made their case, they say everything's double or triple peer reviewed, and they have all this, and they dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. Well, there was a lot of fraudulent information in there, and that will come out. Now, this has to be done in a court of law. You can't just go into court guns ablazing and say, "Oh, this is this and this." There's a rule in court. It's called the Daubert rule, and you have to prove things scientifically. And I believe that is being worked on by some very good, like I'll just say, Kennedy was a very good attorney, and he knows what needs to be done to be able to prove this. So I know that I could tell you that there's teams of scientists and doctors that are putting this together now. And when this comes out, it's gonna shatter the conscience of what really went on over these last several years. This isn't just conjecture. This is fact. We have way too many good doctors and scientists that their reputations, they have the goods. I'll give you a quick example. How would we know this? I'm not spewing it. A blood test, when you go to get blood work, a blood test is only a snapshot of what's going on at that moment. It's only 30 to 35% accurate. Any good doctor should know this and be able to, if they was upfront and honest, would tell you that. Well, I'm telling you, we have stuff that's 97, 98% accurate. It's called mass spectrometry. We could show what's going at the atomic and subatomic level if we really want to know what's going on with somebody. So we have things that if we really want to get down to the nitty gritty, we have all this blood test. That's, like you said, that's 30 to 35% accurate. So, and another thing, what they do is they play with the the metrics. They skew the numbers. So if the nation is, the range is, say for instance, IgG subclass 1 through 4. I was low in subclass 3, and usually the range was between 41 and 100 and something. Well, over the time while I was getting IgG, they dropped that number from 41 if you're anything below 41, you'd be considered low. Now you have to be under 15, because why? More and more people were having low subclass 3, and they had to lower the number. But we were just sick, but it was all in numbers. That's what it is. It's all a numbers game. And unfortunately, we were guinea pigged. We were absolutely guinea pigged. And like I said, we'll go down more with that road with Dr. Monzo.
Yeah, I mean, and I can understand the guinea pig analogy. I mean, after 20 years of service in the military, I remember when I think it was H1N1 was being pushed, and they did the nasal thing back then. And I originally refused because I was just like, this is too new. I don't understand it, and I was going to be admin separated from the military if I hadn't. And I was just like, I think a little over my 10-year mark, and I knew that I wanted to get my 20 to retire. So I complied, and thankfully was able to retire. And I don't know, I've had lingering health issues and battles that I've been dealing with since my time in deployment and active duty. But I remember, like reaching out to friends that are still currently active and like, dude, you got to try and, avoid, and they had to, they have families, they had kids, that's their career. They couldn't just, a lot of people were able to, and I mean, I know there's a bunch of promises made with this current administration. A lot of them are going to be brought back in with their back rank and pay or whatever. Don't know if that's been done yet. Haven't been able to fact check that, but my friends that had to do this, I feel for them. I feel for all the people out there that were just struggling to survive in this economy, and they got kids and their jobs were forced to tell them, like, I have been blessed and lucky that I didn't have to do any of that. The toughest decision for me was just like, being a big music lover and concert guy, was just like accepting that I wouldn't go to any more, live music events during that time period. Thankfully, as time played out, I've been back and whatever. But yeah, it's just I just hope what I'm trying to say is that if you are somebody out there that had to, and you've had, experience something, or there's something that you're concerned, I mean, we need more people to make their voice heard. It's just like, I mean, I've suffered on social media with episodes being taken down and being what's it called, shadow banned and stuff like that.
And that's absolutely ridiculous. This isn't, like I said, no conjecture. We're talking fact.
Yeah. But I don't know, that if all the voices are shouting, they can only silence so many of us.
Exactly.
So I just hope more people speak up, and especially I look at the pregnant women that had to, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's sad, it's sick. But I mean, I'm glad there's guys like you that, armor up and go into the trenches and to share this information.
Before I talk about some solutions, first I want to thank you for your service. I have a special place in my heart for all people. I mean, without them, this is why we have this beautiful country, and we want to keep it that way. And we're under assault right now, big time, but I believe that we're making great strides in Iraq and Iran. You could comment about Iraq and Afghanistan burn pits. So not only were they taking the jab, but they were around a lot of toxins. And when our soldiers came home, the VA hospitals did not know how to treat these soldiers. Think about this. I'm going to say it again. The VA just put their hand, they had no clue of what to do. And it was a combination of because what was in their shots that they were getting and the burn pits. Well, the doctor that I saw, the late Grady, passed away in August of 2018 or September 2018. His name's Dr. William J. Ray. He was a cardiothoracic surgeon. Not only was he that, he was the top, not only in the country, but in the world when it comes to toxic doctor. And he would have these soldiers from all over the country come to him when the VA clinics had no idea what to do with him. And when I saw him for the very first time and he sat me down and he had a team of scientists around him, he said, "Mr. Gardi, what I'm about to tell you, I didn't learn in med school." That kind of opened me up right there. Like, what do you mean? And basically this is all science, and this isn't something, these are the people that write the textbooks, but these are the textbooks that are kind of like, they're not going to get a lot of press because unfortunately we have the a medical part that doesn't want this part of the medical
the Rockefeller controlled.
Yes, correct. To get out, because again, then how would you treat this? And I had to get a lot of very expensive IV therapy and many different treatments where I had to spend literally hundreds of thousands of dollars out of my pocket. But in regards to some solutions, now people that have taken the shot at anybody, there's several different things that you could do that that help, but it has to be fought and won at a whole different level than most things that are fought at. One that Dr. Artis has talked about, and you can look his name up. He was actually sued. They went after him. They raided his office. He explained how pure nicotine, how it breaks the receptors and takes the poison that was actually in the COVID jab, and it neutralizes it, and it helps get the poison out of the body. That's one. Also, I talked about the endothelial cells. Well, the endothelial cells, to give you an idea, 80% of the endothelial cells nourishment comes from what's called butyrate. And what is butyrate? Butyrate is a substance, and basically what it does is it's a major energy source for gut epithelial cells, and it's known to play a key role in homeostasis. So basically what it's doing is it's making the body balanced and whole. It's repairing, helping repair. It's giving the nourishment to the cells to be able to repair themselves. And that's the amazing thing with the body, because if you give the body what it needs, it really can repair itself. It's absolutely amazing. That's why what's happening and why it's so hard to our bodies to recover now than ever before is because we're not only are we getting poisoned by what is in a lot of these jabs, but we're getting chemtrailed with what's in the air. That's a fact. I mean, or what's in the water. 10 years ago, I came out and I was a huge person. This is right when I got sick. I explained how bad fluoride was in the water. What it does is it calcifies your pineal gland. And everyone's like, oh, that's crazy. Well, look at all the states that are banning it. Now they're admitting it. You said that to a dentist 10 years ago, you would be laughed right out of his office. Now it's coming about. These are things, folks, that I've known about. I could go around a list of things that I was talked about 10 years ago when I was been fighting the good fight, trying to get information out there. And now we know it to be fact, But along the way, unfortunately, and Bill will contest, I've had some very smart, intelligent people, an epidemiologist, a microbiologist, and a scientist, all taken out by the deep state, all killed. These were friends of mine. You've heard me talk about Michael Chaplin. We'll talk about that, go down that road with Dr. Manzo. But when you know people firsthand that were in their 40s and 50s that have been killed and silenced, and these were smartest people, some of the smartest people on the planet, personal friends of mine. That's why I'm making it a mission to get everything I know and be able to, what I feel like I do best is being able to connect, getting great minds together, getting Bill set up with G. Edward Griffin that he talked about, Dr. Manzo, he had Dr. Carrie Madej, many other great doctors. And I'm just so fortunate.
Anytime I've tried those like we were talking earlier, anytime I tried putting any of their clips to promote that episode on my TikTok, it shut my TikTok down. It was misinformation. They said anytime I try to put those episodes on YouTube, they shut it down. They called it misinformation. So it's like, it's still, it happened then. It's still happening now. I hope that,
maybe we'll give it a go and try to get us up on YouTube.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I mean, the risk for me is then I'll lose my entire channel, but it's not like I'm making money off it, but it's it is what it is, man. I just hope people out there start. I mean, the thing that the biggest thing that would always have me like banging my head against the wall. I'm grateful. Like I was on a meeting, a 12-step recovery meeting earlier today, and I'm grateful that I'm learning to get outside of myself, to think about service to others, to help others, to say the serenity prayer when things are in the world seem like doom and gloom and chaotic. I'm grateful to be learning those things because we live in a very selfish and self-centered world, and everybody's too concerned about having the next big thing better than their friends. They're too concerned about how they look on, Facebook. They're too concerned about getting theirs. It's dog eat dog world, all that stuff out there, and they're not paying attention to the things that, while they're sitting there fighting for their little bit of 15 minutes of fame, everything's being taken away from us. And if we don't
That's right.
speak up, and all come together, all the things they played, all the games, divide us over race, divide us over sexuality, divide us over sexual orientation, divide us over, and we keep taking the bait, but because they know that if we, a people together, not just American people, a human race united together, they have no control over us. I mean, they're getting to the point with AI and all this other stuff, and that's a whole nother episode that's coming up. That when we finally wake up and pull our heads out of our asses and get together, it might be a little bit too little, too late, But think about your kids and grandkids, man, and that's why I have people like Joe on to share this information, and Dr. Monzo, and
and many others. I mean, there's so many that are speaking the truth.
I like to have fun on here. I like to have an escape. I like to have friends, on here, but where my heart's at is getting information like this out. So I appreciate you coming back on, man, to share all that. Want to give an update on your court?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in the past, just a brief summary of what went on. I'm in some litigation right now with it's called Optimum RX. It was a lawsuit that was filed in early 2022 against Optimum RX. And what had happened was there's multiple counts of different things that they did. A lot of them has to do with I was getting a particular medicine called IgG. It's immunoglobulin, which helps. It's plasma that helps fight off infection because my IgG subclass 3 was low, and that's part of the issue that unfortunately the jab or the COVID jab could do is cause havoc on your immune system and lower that particular section, your IgG or your subclass 3. So what had happened was during this time, I elected to go on Cobra through my ex-wife in the summer of 2018, knowing I could only be on for 3 years. And I knew I had to make every day count to get the necessary treatments I needed. And so basically, long story short, during these 3 years, the insurance basically delayed and denied multiple and almost every treatment that I needed. Eventually I got it, but it was slow walked. And then when I did get it, it would be purposely delayed. For instance, my IgG that I would get on a weekly basis, all of a sudden a prior authorization would come up and they would notify the doctor, and then something would happen where something would either get lost or they would just totally play games where my medicine, where there was no coordination of care with the insurance. And think this is a high-end specialty medicine, and I'm immunocompromised. I have toxic encephalopathy. I have a list of over 30 medical diagnoses. I went without my medicine for over a month at a time when I needed this on a weekly basis, and it happened multiple times. That's just one incident of a particular type of medicine. There was other things that had happened, and my attorney originally thought that they probably saved in upwards of about $500,000. So right now where it stands is that we're in what's called the discovery phase. And what we know, I'm going to give you a quick example. During this one episode where I was delayed my medicine in April of 2021, Optimum RX, I get a letter, but I don't get the letter till like the 21st of April, and the letter's written the 13th of April. From Optum saying my medicine's approved. So the medicine sat like an additional 8, 9, 10 days. So I call it, I get it delivered, but United Healthcare, now think about this, there's a lot going on here, but United Healthcare is the insurance company. You have Optimum RX and then Optimum Specialty Infusion. And then during this time, these insurance companies, especially the large ones, were going up, and they still are doing it to some degree, buying up these specialty infusion pharmacies. A specialty infusion pharmacy is the one that has the high price drugs like cancer and the real expensive stuff. Well, they bought the Diplomat Pharmacy, the one that I had had for years, for $300 million. And once they did that, and they tried to, then that's when a lot of things really started taking place. So I get this letter on the 21st. I get the medicine shipped. I get the medicine in my arm on the 23rd. This is after going without it for 5.5 weeks. And I need this on a weekly basis. The insurance still is showing that it's not approved. Now think about this. The United Healthcare is saying no. Executive from HCA gives a phone call to the senior vice president of United Healthcare and tells them to put this on the back end. My doctor never knew what was going on, and she's supposed to take part in all the authorizations. She gets a phone call, I believe I was May 3rd or May 7th, stating that the medicine's approved. So she said, she was upset. She knows that what they've done is heinous. So she asked for the proper paperwork, because you get the paperwork sent. They would not send it to her. So it just shows you that we're living in a society right now where doctors don't matter, and these insurance companies could run amok and do whatever I'm sorry, darn well please. And they're pretty much able to get away with it. They really do. They're above the law. They really believe that. And right now, I just read, I think it was a couple weeks ago, there's a lawsuit. A young gentleman, he was 22 years old. He died because he couldn't get, I believe, his inhaler. His price of medicine went up for $100 to $500, and he had to decide between that and rent. And unfortunately, the guy died because he couldn't get his medicine. He couldn't afford it. And so there's an attorney that took the case and having a wrongful death lawsuit against the same company I'm suing, Optimum RX. And United Healthcare they're the pharmacy underneath United Healthcare. And as you know, right now, especially in the last year, United Healthcare, now I pray the Lord that more and more things are coming out, and these companies, these big companies, because they're either too big to fail, they're being exposed for what they are. They take our money. At the time, I was paying $1,000 a month premium. They take our money, but don't live up to what we're supposed to get. And even during this whole time, I had an attorney, and even with the attorney, he was getting basically the middle finger. I mean, even me having somebody, so I can imagine what's going on, that old people, 70 years old, that are fighting for their lives. They don't have the fight in them to get what they need, and they're just giving up and dying. And it's unfortunate. But so I'm trying to get this information out, get people together in regards to what's going on, and also with the insurance industry, exposing it for what it is. And my number where I could be reached is my name's Joseph Gardi. My number's 216-296-5862. And I know that athletes out there, especially the pro athletes, they have a lot of money. They could hire and get good attorneys, unfortunately, not like most people. But when they start having these serious injuries within the months and in years to come, they're going to know why. And these are beyond debilitating. And like I said, it's not now just due to the CTE. We could show what's causing this by the triple-headed spec stand, but now because of the toxic encephalopathy from what the shot did. So you just show that we have the shot. We could show what's absolutely in the shot. We could put all the correlations. We can connect all the dots. Another treatment that I'd like to get out there that would really help a lot is hyperbaric chamber out there. So that's another wonderful thing. And NEC, it stands for NAC. Basically what it is a mucodilator, and it's able to break the blood-brain barrier and pull toxins out of the brain. So I have a lot of great solutions. There's another thing that I want to talk about at a later date, and that's the nanotechnology that was in the shot. And I'll have Dr. Monzo go more in, because we even have things that could offset that and help strip and get all that nanotechnology out of the body.
Yeah,
thank you.
That for Dr. Monzo. Yeah. Well, Joe, thanks, man. It was good, getting you back on. Hopefully people heed this message. And Yeah, I knew you
Please-
had a lot to say.
Please give me a call. I'm all about solutions and helping people and giving back. And again, Bill, thank you for your service. Thank you for getting me on to spread the word. And like I said, if it wasn't for my heavenly Father, I give him all the glory and give him all the credit. I just want to get this information out while I can. So thank you, Bill.
No problem. Thank you, Joe.
What's going on? It's Tommy Beck, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.